Briar Earth, Chapter 59, Balcony Diplomacy by Paul Tapp. For a moment, Peach thought that the eagle gave shrill cry, but its distance was too great to have been heard. And yet again a similar sound, but from beyond the barn, a huge man in the middle distance heading up the valley, a small and energetic dog bouncing before him. "It is my yardman, Podge Septimus. He has a long day ahead." The master had been watching her and not wanting to disturb her depths of thought, and had taken a sharp breath at a flash in his eye, perhaps from his misbeating heart that enshrouded the young beauty in a momentary halo. How different to his expectations of her she was. Peach had immediately taken to his humble home. Her eyes radiated wisdom and warmth not normally associated with young people, royalty especially. A strong and straight nose magnified the intensity of her beauty. The nose, the mark of the thoroughbred, in hounds, in humans. Her eyes reflecting the azure horizon as deep as her mind. Now he knew why humble men became noble men. The timid, fearless, and sinners became saints from the smile of a beautiful woman. As though she had waved a hand at him on their first meeting, the princess had cast a spell over the master. "He is a jolly fellow, your man Podge Septimus. Why goes he boldly to the darkening hills?" "Important work for the hunt, madam, and he and his terrier are the best in the country at it." "At what, master?" Peach quizzed, glancing at Thomas before addressing him melodiously. "Are you listening to this fascinating dialogue on the hunt, Captain Thomas?" "I am as much mesmerized by this valley and all its surrounding beauty, my lady, as I have been with your keen interest in all things since our arrival," Thomas responded. "The barn, in particular, seemed to greatly interest you," and once again found that he had to drop his gaze from Peach's unnerving stare. She really should not hold his eyes for so long. It was only proper that he not engage her in a sort of competition, and most certainly against noble etiquette. He had no qualms of staring down both men and women, but protocol dictated that he yield to Peach, and her forcing this irritated him immensely, especially when she gave that little smirking, satisfying twist to her mouth, as though she had practiced it. But why should she do this? And once again she had done it, and he had turned away from her so that she might avoid his annoyance. "Do go on, master," Peach said, turning to her robust host, flickering encouragement with her eyes that absorbed the sky, before courteously dropping her gaze. "I have read much of the fox hunt, yet never heard it so described, by someone so respected and close to it." The master held his breath, awaiting her consent, for never had he had such a beautiful, sweet-smelling single attendance, and his voice quivered in harmony with his dancing heart. "No fox earth escapes the uncanny eye of Podge Septimus, the earth stopper, madam. Works at night he do, for most foxes work at night, but when they return they can't get back into the earth, and when they run in the hunt they cannot go to ground and hide from the hound." The master laughed wickedly at the imagined frustrated plight of the fox. "You mean he blocks them from their homes? It seems an unfair advantage to the chaser, does it not, Huntmaster?" Peach queried with a wry smile. "It's all part of the tradition, ma'am," the master replied, but detecting a cautionary glance from Captain Thomas, reduced the level of mirth in his tone. "Whence did the tradition begin, master? When did man first chase the fox? For fun?" Peach's manner was jolly enough, but Thomas switched his attention fully to the conversation. "I dare say, madam, for as long as there have been foxes and man. It is a cunning and wily creature, and is no friend of the defenseless lamb or the unsuspecting hen." "The lamb and the hen, are they then man's work or God's creations, master?" "I dare say they are God's, my lady." "And I dare say designed by God to share with man," Princess Peach added, and felt a slight flush as she detected, along with the master and guests at porch side, a change in her mood, and one that would be unfair on such a gentlemanly host. Yet she could not stop herself, feeling her brain suddenly turn hot as details of fox hunting preparations assaulted her sense of fair play. She wanted to be heard, for nobody had ever listened to her before, and yet an inner voice cautioned her to avoid the contentious politics of fox hunting. But she ignored her inbuilt warnings and raised her voice, much to the disdain of Captain Thomas, whose mind flashed to his meetings with the secretary. This is why he was here, to kerchief her mouth on sensitive politics, yet so intrigued by her beauty that he had almost forgotten. "My lady, he said, his eyes imploring Peach to desist. "And the fields, and the forest," Peach said, choosing to ignore her escort's silent protests, "and the skies, and the peaks, and the valleys, and the brooks, raging and smooth, all carved by the hand of divine perfection, madam," the master interrupted, "and all gifted to myself in this amazing valley to which I have pledged all and my remaining years. And in your world, master, and by the grace of our Creator, there is no place for the fox. You sympathize with the fox and all his wily vocations, my lady?" The master's smile was genuine, but with a hint of concern of the perils ahead, should the conversation continue along its path. But as the brook babbling in the far distance from the balcony, Peach continued, "Is the vocation of the fox simply to survive man's sporting lust, or to outwit his brethren of the field for no other reason than to eat, to survive? I respect the fox no less than the chicken and the lamb, and I, my most gracious guest, would with true heart call an end to the hunt, both tomorrow's hunt and those in the valley for all time, should your majesty find even slight offense with it," the master replied, and suddenly ran flush-faced at the realization of his utterance. A short silence followed, and the master's face scorched in the folly of formalizing the discourse by his reference to Peach as Her Majesty, but more so his stupidity at committing himself to canceling the hunt should she express such a desire, for such a desire would be a command to which his honor would bind him. He feared her next words, for with them his world of fox-hunting, and with it his beloved manor in its glorious settings, would be lost. As he looked about him, he was relieved to note that only Captain Thomas was in earshot, for his other guests had, at the behest of her escort, graciously moved to the far end of the porch to watch for new arrivals for tomorrow's hunt. "It would be my wish, then, master," Peach continued, her voice now tremulous and raised as in readiness for a conclusion that both the master and Thomas saw as inevitable, "that all foxes had freedoms penned by God in his design of all creatures, great and small, that the hunt not—" "Does your Podge Septimus take part in the hunt proper, master?" Captain Thomas interrupted blandly, but looking sternly at Peach, whose eyes seemed to flicker with relief. "Does he ride with us?" "Oh, yes," the master answered. "He plays no small part in the hunt, will return in the dawn, his work completed, and then spruce himself in all his hunting glory for the long day ahead," the master replied, and then laughed uproariously in grateful acknowledgement at the clever diplomat sharing his porch. "I have caught him a-dozing in the saddle at the end of the hunt on more than one occasion." The laughter swept their presence with relief, the princess included, for she had promised herself not to cloud her trip with even a waft of controversy, and she almost failed herself. The return of joviality to the conversation brought the return of the other guests to their side, with news that yet another carriage was making its way to the manor. The master turned his sight toward the shadowing hills. "I see very little in such dim light with these old eyes. I would be obliged to know of their arrival," he asked of his guests. "I thought I heard your yardman a-singing then. Does he sing, master?" Peach inquired, and received a nod of approval from Thomas that small talk had averted a serious incident. "Like a cricket, sweet, strong, and clear as a frosty morning. But soon as he knows someone's near, he goes as silent as the moon," the master replied, looking fondly towards his yardman, diminishing in size as he made his way clumsily up the valley. "Has he been in your employ for long, master?" Peach said, her raised hand to grasp the arm of her host, her eyes soft and apologetic, her touch to an aging, proud, and lonely widower of many decades, pure enchantment. How sophisticated and yet how humane she was. How this so contrasted with his view of the arrogance of royalty, her own father in particular. So callous were his hunting expeditions within Lord at Overham's new colonies. He had brought conflict with the natives of those countries. How could such a devil beget such an angel? Our good Podge came here at the age of the captain now. He did, my lady. As handsome and as diplomatic as the captain too, Huntmaster? Again the party laughed, Thomas slightly blushing, but all enjoying the engaging and harmless repartee. He had travelled across the country in search of work, the master continued, tried more than 30 estates for a position, his huge size clearly against him. A large man he certainly is, Peach agreed. I too rejected the poor fellow, and I could tell that I perhaps would be his last call before abandoning his quest for honest work, the master said, his face saddening with reflection. I reasoned that a slighter man could carry a pail 3 times as quicker from the well. At this, the master, clearly enjoying the attention of his captive audience, laughed loudly. Yet he argued well, saying that he could carry 3 pails in each hand. I would not have been able to turn him away, the princess said, and nor could I, your highness. He had the look of a faithful old hound, my dear old Pluto, now too old for the hunt. The day I engaged him was a good day for Manor Grey. What a hand he has turned out to be. He moves that great frame like an elm leaf on a blustery day, and the poor devil is almost toeless on one foot. Goodness, I wish not to pry, but was the cause of his misfortune an act of war? In some ways, yes, the war between poor poachers and the rich, the master replied with an endearing smile. Freezing wars and shoeless children, frostbite. His own father cut his blackened toes from his foot and was later sent to our southern colonies for poaching grouse. A tragic tale for such a heavenly place, the princess replied, her eyes softening with a film of tears, caught again by the huntmaster. He knew they were directed at him and his bravely kept sadness. Indeed, the master replied, looking fondly up the valley and beyond to a memory of sweet-voiced echoes he often still heard. Podge and his canine companion had now disappeared into the falling night. The suddenness of silent and deep reflection was broken by the snorting of a distant horse team and the rattle of a carriage, and brought the master to his feet. I do detect that my guests have arrived. I beg you, madam, that I have your pardon for my absence and my early retirement, for tomorrow will be a testing day for hounds, horses, and the jolly fox, Peach smiled. The eruption of laughter from the balcony, momentarily dancing with the lightly drifting snow, before being swallowed by darkness and silence on the eve of the day of the fox.